Hey, Lioness, welcome to the show, Lioness Conversations, where we help women be brave, to lead with confidence and joy, and to find your path to the most meaningful work of your life. I'm Jen Porter, leadership and empowerment coach for ambitious and heart-centered women. Today, I have a very special guest, Trish McCall, founder of Wild Haven. Trish is a nurse, athlete, fitness coach, turned entrepreneur and trauma therapy guide. Trish, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you. This is an honor. I'm excited about this.
So, Trish, you and I know each other from way back. We actually grew up together in the same little town, same schools. We played softball together. And we lost touch over, the years, and a lot of life has happened in those decades. And we reconnected because we have a shared passion. We have a lot of similarities around our calling, what we feel like we're made for, and how we want to serve in this world. So some of those themes are the lion, roaring, the
Mhm.
butterfly and the metamorphosis that a butterfly goes through. There were so many connections that were happening when we
The
came back
tree.
together. And the
Yeah,
tree, oh, the tree means so much to me. Yes. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
me too. I am floored at just all of the aligning and alliances, I guess you could say.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
it really is remarkable. So, the direction that you've taken is different than mine. Mine is more, helping professional women become leaders and, move into the calling that they're made for professionally in their work. And you are serving people who are recovering, healing, renewing, restoring. You
yeah,
are all about health and wholeness through a different means, right? Through
yeah. Actually,
therapy,
it's
through
very
yoga.
complementary to your profession,
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. So, Wild Haven, tell us about what Wild Haven is and what's happening on the inside of Wild Haven right now.
Okay. Immediately I'm thinking of all the metamorphosis that, that butterfly represents, and Wild Haven. But as for right now, currently, we just launched our Wild Haven Warrior membership, which really allows people. The whole point of Wild Haven is to be accessible to trauma survivors, and we know through multiple studies now and science and all that is that everyone has trauma of
Mhm.
some sort. We tend to focus more on those who may have already done some work, but are looking for a lifestyle of hope and healing and
Mm.
wellness. And so we really want to come around them, support them with a community of peers who've also, different kinds of trauma, but all kind of coming around each other and helping them to move through the trauma into a lifestyle of there's five facets I say to health of the spiritual, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and also the relational. All of those impact our whole lives, not just personal but also professional and stuff, and so it's complementary to that to help people move in that direction.
So how are you helping these trauma survivors? What does that experience look like if they're partnering with you in Wild Haven?
Okay. Well, we actually bought 100 acres of mountain land in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And so it very much involves everything involves nature,
Mm,
because nature is wild and free, and yet it has rhythms to it.
mm,
And so we always kind of point back. We know that nature heals forest. We have forests and streams. We have two streams. So just bringing people back to nature, focusing on nutrition as well as mindful movement. So I lead groups called Hiking to Heal. We
mm.
have retreats here on the land, or I can go to where others are, where I need to be. And then, like I said, right now I work in a studio, and so I offer live online or in person But also we record those so that if they can't make it, we know, as with a lot of trauma survivors in fight, flight, freeze modes, aren't ready to be in groups necessarily or even
Mm.
live. And so we have replays, a whole, what I call the growing library for them to
Yeah.
access on their own anytime, anywhere. And there's an app for that even.
Mm.
But yeah, we just want
Wow.
to reach them where they are, meet them where they are.
What's happening in the studio? Is this yoga sessions? Is this what is this?
So I am a yoga therapist, and so I work. Trauma manifests itself in chronic pain or dis-ease that becomes
Yeah.
disease oftentimes. So we work in very small groups, 8 to 12 people max, in the studio for people who are trying to rewire the nervous system, is what I say. So it really gets into the neuroscience, but I can get very nerdy about that and stuff. But when we're in a class session, it's really just taking a trauma sensitive approach, where I never touch anyone. We sometimes use music, but we're very mindful that music can also be a trigger for some people. Smells can be a trigger. So we just create that brave, safe space in the studio so that we can move, and we uh, move through postures that help to release trauma in a safe and gentle manner. So.
And how are you connecting with these trauma survivors? How do they know that this is available?
Oh, okay. Uh, we have word of mouth, of course. I love that. Even myself, when I hear someone else is enjoying something or getting some value out of it, I want to go there, right? So word of mouth, but also we have a website, but Facebook business. I have a Facebook business page, Wild Haven and Co. And so people find me there, and then I try to be involved in different groups that I know are dealing with trauma survivors and such. So foster adoptive families. I'm connected within the community to various social services, I'll say, as well.
Mhm. And how much of your nursing background m caused this to come up for you? What did you see in your work experience as a nurse that made you realize this may be a big problem that people
Yeah.
need resources for?
I grew up wanting to be in the medical field. I thought I would be a heart or brain surgeon. So I kind of laugh because now I am a heart and brain surgeon of a different kind. So I wanted to be a nurse. And I think this actually, just to back it up, I have my own childhood trauma and stuff. And so I think innately I wanted to help others to heal
Yeah.
and live life fully and thriving. And so then when I became a nurse, I worked in the NICU, was my first experience. Now looking back, hindsight 2020, I realized I worked in a very low income area, and there were plenty of gangs. And actually part of being a gang member was how many, and how to rank up was how many babies you had. So I now look back and I'm like, that was a form of trafficking. We had multiple issues in the NICU and stuff, with multiple children from one gang member and stuff. So
Mhm.
that was kind of an alert, I guess, but I didn't realize what it was. And then becoming a nurse, I was a nurse manager at a crisis pregnancy center. And so then again, I was told, oh, that's not happening. I'd just gotten news that, Charlotte was a hub, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
for anti-traffic or for trafficking. And I was like, well, is it here? And within 5 days of putting up a poster on the back of a bathroom wall, 7 of them were torn off. And I was like, oh, we have an issue, for the hotline. And
And that was people needing help that were being trafficked?
yes, yeah.
Mm.
And then I was personally involved in helping to rescue and relocate.
Mhm.
some traffic survivors and stuff. And, a lot of people don't realize it's mostly actually in families that this is
Yeah.
occurring with, or at least someone that they know that they never would have imagined that
Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
Wow. So when did you decide that you wanted to get involved in supporting trauma survivors? I mean, you were doing it in your career
Yeah.
already. What happened that caused you to make this transition into starting your own thing?
There's a series of things, and I will just say my own story. So I ended up a nurse, even a CrossFit coach, and I ended up with 19 medical diagnoses, both mental and physical, and 5 surgeries, and I can't even tell you how many medications. And I was just at a loss. I was like, I'm doing all the right things. I'm doing I'm a health, I'm a nurse, one, I'm in the healthcare field. I'm a CrossFit coach. I'm a health coach. So nutrition was a big thing. I was teaching children, how to be healthy so they could be healthy adults. So I just remember being in the shower floor, like there's just got to be a different way, a better way. And through different people, a personal trainer slash she was a personal trainer who had come out of physical therapy because she didn't want to be limited by insurance on what she could help with and stuff. So that was one start. And then I went to a yoga retreat to support a friend of mine. I'd been doing yoga as exercise, right?
Yeah.
But I went with a friend to a yoga retreat. I was there for her and did not know that the leader or the instructor was a yoga therapist. And she saw, I say, into me. She saw through me.
Mm.
And at one point, very gently, kindly, not in front of anyone, was just telling me, you're making your body do what it doesn't want to do. And just because it can doesn't mean it should.
Oh.
And at that same time, the personal trainer I was working with, so all of this is kind of together, but I got on a treadmill. My rate went from 60 to 150 within just a minute to 2 minutes of starting to jog. I wasn't even at a full run, and I'm an athlete, right?
Mhm.
So she turned the machine off and said, "Trauma much?" So she was familiar.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was familiar. The yoga
Why
therapist.
was that a sign, Trish? Why was that a sign of trauma?
Um, I came to learn that the body keeps the score.
Mhm.
And so whenever we are holding on to whatever it is that is creating, I call dis-ease, will eventually manifest itself into disease.
Mhm.
And
The physical
so
manifestation of the sickness. Yeah.
exactly. And the heart, especially the gut, the heart, are all great indicators of when fight flight freeze kicks in, and you don't have control over that per se, or at least I didn't think I did.
Mhm.
And that is actually where yoga came into play, and learning how to the power of the breath, the power of the mind, and the power of the spirit. So in order to rewire that nervous system that learned fight flight freeze, um,
Mhm. So it's
and
an unlearning of or you said a rewiring. It's a rewiring
it
of the
is.
nervous system.
Exactly, exactly.
Mm.
So just like a road, if you rode on a road, it's going to create ruts. And so sometimes at first getting out of that rut is hard,
Sure.
but it's not impossible. And then once you do, you create a new pathway,
Mhm.
right? To the
Mhm.
brain and stuff. And a lot of people don't realize 80% of our nervous system is actually transferring up to the brain, from the
To the
body
brain.
to the
Mhm.
brain. So sometimes, and I'm not knocking talk therapy. So I 100% think
Yeah.
the two of them complement one another. All right. So I'm an advocate for talk therapy, still have my moments that I go as myself.
Mhm.
But I learned that some things you can't unlock through your thinking brain. It's
That's
locked
true.
into those unconscious
That's
parts
right.
of your brain.
I've had experience with both, with talk therapy, counseling, and still do, because there's all kinds of things that we need support in, but
Yes.
also the somatic experiencing work. And the outcome of that helped me in ways that everything else that I tried did not. And I learned things through that experiencing that that are still able to help me cope when I'm triggered.
Yes.
When I do have a trauma response, I have learned some tools through that absolutely help me, and it's remarkable.
And I'm
So
glad that you
powerful.
mentioned the somatic piece because I don't think a lot of people are familiar with it, but somatic just means bringing your senses back to you, really. We
And
lose
connecting with the body, right? Because
exactly.
we're often cut off. We're not paying attention to what's
Yes.
happening in the rest of us. We're trained to just stay in our heads.
Yes. So we react rather than respond, choosing a response. And so that's what I love about so somatic work is definitely a part of the trauma sensitive approach that we take. So we want to make sure that people learn to, I say, love themselves back to life. Is getting to know themselves and coming to love themselves again and being loved. So because we can't love others as ourselves if we don't love ourselves.
That's so true. We just
So
don't have it to give if we
exactly.
haven't done the work. I have this belief that we have a responsibility to to be healed. We have a responsibility to the extent that we can, to try
Mhm.
to get to a place of healing,
Yes. And I
because
love yes.
because the
Yes.
world needs us to be as whole as possible. I don't no, no, we don't ever arrive, but if I haven't done my work, then it will spew out in relationships, in life and work. And so I just have this strong belief that we we are responsible to our fellow citizens in this world to do our own work so that we have more to give.
And I focus when you said healing and I heard the accentuation of the ing and that so resonates because that's what I tell people. We are always in the process of becoming, of
Mm,
healing. So it
yeah.
is an ing at all times. And that's what I love. It's about progress, not perfection.
Mhm.
And so as long as we're progressing, growing, I say stretching, uh, then we are healing. And I think
Mm.
that's really hard for people. It was for me because I always thought I need to be healed. I've done all this work. Why I'm not there yet?
Yeah.
But it's really a process of
It's
doing that.
frustrating, isn't it? The process of healing is really frustrating. And in my experience, my own expectations of being done because I did put
Mhm.
in so much work. It's like I thought I made all the investments that I needed to make in order to get to a place. And then when it shows up again, it's really frustrating and it's deflating because I thought I was further along in that healing journey. But the truth is we're so human, you
Yes.
know?
Well, and you are further along because by recognizing it, that's growth. Because before you
Mhm.
didn't even recognize it as an issue, right? So to be able to go, that's, oh, I noticed that,
Mhm.
then that is growth. Because
Yeah.
before we would have, or at least I would have masked it, stuffed it, any weakness, anything that wasn't perfect, that people
Yeah.
pleasing perfectionism, then I would
You
flip right
I
back.
can't help but think about when because you and I grew up at the same time, right? We're at the same age. And I can remember, I'm sure you heard it too, that practice makes perfect. That
Oh
was
yeah.
the mantra of our era, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure for multiple
No
generations.
pain, no gain. No
That's
pain, no
right.
gain.
That,
Practice
that's
is
right.
perfect.
And
Absolutely.
so there was this expectation that's the standard. The standard should always be not even just excellence, but perfection, that we could somehow get there. And I just have heard in the last several years the new mantra. which is practice makes progress. Is that what
Progress.
it is?
Yes,
Practice makes
practice makes
progress. And it was like,
yes. We can
love that
breathe.
so much more.
Yeah.
Practice makes progress. And progress is a beautiful thing.
Exactly. I mean, that is what we're seeking, right? Is progress, is, I
Mm.
say, from glory to glory or from step to step,
Hmm.
that we're not
Hmm.
looking to jump 6 steps or whatever, but step by step. That's how
Yeah.
we grow and progress. So
And
I
that
love
takes, it reminds me of the tree as well. There was someone I was talking to in a couple episodes ago that talked about seeds versus trees and how we want to be the full blown, in our full glory tree, but we have to start with seeds. But there's so much patience that's required in growth because there's so many stages, and
Mhm.
we have to be kind to ourselves and patient with ourselves in that evolution, in those
And I'm
through those
sure you've heard,
phases.
and if you know anything about seeds, they have to be buried and they have to
Mhm.
be broken open in order
Mhm.
for it to even get rooted enough to get the strength to push through the ground and stuff.
Wow.
And so I'm like, that's such a metaphor
Such
for,
a metaphor.
yeah, for us, for life.
What is the difference between, in yoga, the difference between a yoga instructor and a yoga therapist?
Okay. So a yoga instructor has to have a minimum of 200 hours to even start classes. And they do a general take on classes. So rather than a specialty, usually. And then a yoga therapist. So a yoga therapist has to have a minimum of 800 hours. And then they take typically a special focus. So, um, and because, and it typically has to do with some medical or specific issue, I guess you could say. So mine is trauma, and
Okay.
by being a nurse too, being able to understand more of the mechanisms, I guess. Although I will say, okay, so I was trained through Yoga Faith, and I will be honest, it was I was more excited about that certification than my nursing degree. I It was so intense and so
Mhm.
evidence based and so uh, whole is all I want to say.
Mhm.
Is just
Mhm.
completely whole and holistic. That this truly those 5 facets that I talked about. We deep
Wow.
dive into each one of those as a yoga therapist through that yoga therapy training program. I've never had anything like it, and so anyway, my hope is that we will get that approved by the American Medical Board so that we can get CEs and stuff like that through it as
Okay.
well, because we have Dr. Bessel Vanderkolk, Dr. Caroline Leaf, neuroscientists, psychologists, physicians that we are actually trained by in it. So anyway, so that I say that just because this is, I believe, the new healthcare, the true healthcare.
Really? Okay, so tell me more about that. I've done yoga for 30 years, and it's really about movement for me more than anything. I love hot yoga. I love the intensity of it. If it feels like a detox or, and a
It
massage
is.
all in one. And I don't I don't think I've gotten the full scope of benefits that I could from yoga. And maybe other people feel that way too. Yoga was really popular and everybody's carrying around their yoga mats and things like that.
Mhm.
But it's you're talking about something much more profound than an exercise class. So what are the potential outcomes of yoga when we're doing it for more therapeutic reasons?
So, um, wow, that is big. That's big because I almost feel like I've had people literally I can talk to them and talk to them, but until they experience it, um, it's hard to put into words. So it yoga in and of itself, Sanskrit, means unity. And you hear spirit, mind, body, but it
Mhm.
truly is. I don't know another exercise. I don't know another anything that encompasses what yoga is, the unity. And in my case, so we know unity of the spirit, mind, and body, but with, I say, yoga faith, or Christ-centered yoga. So I teach secular, but I also teach Christ-centered. That's really what I practice myself as well. And
Mm.
it's just being able to, I call it, practice the postures of prayer
Mm.
with a full heart, coming onto our modern day yoga mat, or our modern day prayer mat, which is our yoga
Wow.
mat. And so it's inviting um, the Holy Spirit in. And we know that the Holy Spirit is in the business of miracles and work
Hmm.
and healing that spirit. Because
Yeah.
if we're only approaching our health from a physical aspect, we're really missing a lot with that spiritual aspect, because the spirit is where our belief systems develop. And
Mm.
then that belief system becomes a mindset, and that mindset then drives the body, or what we do, right? And
Yeah.
so if we're not addressing the spirit at all, how do you know what your belief systems are? How do you deal with those? And
Mm.
how do you replace the lies? I say the lies that bind the spirit, mind, and body. How do you break those chains without the spirit and the truth, and being able to do that? So like in yoga, right? Like yoga, as most people know of it, it's about an affirmation. However, I can say, and Dr. Caroline Leaf speaks to this, I can say I'm beautiful, but do I believe it? If I don't believe it, then I'm actually lying to myself, which creates a
Mm.
dissonance between the mind and the brain. So the
Well,
mind
I-
is
I'm
different from
with
the
you. I'm with you, and I want to hear more, but I want to. So, isn't the theory that if we say it, we will eventually believe it? Isn't that why it's taught to say the
brain. It
mantras?
is. It is. And I would highly recommend Dr. Caroline Leaf and following her. And she describes this, I say, so much better.
And is it
Yes.
Lief? Is it
L,
Caroline Leaf?
no, it's just
Leaf,
Leaf.
like the
Don't I
tree?
love that, because we talk about the tree all the time. So Caroline Leaf. Um, but she talks about how we can create dissonance. And I'll just give you an example. So the beautiful thing. So if I'm saying I'm beautiful, but I don't really believe it, I'm lying to myself. But what if I say I am, the practices that I'm practicing could lead me to a place that I believe I'm beautiful?
Mm.
Then you're not lying. You are
Mm.
doing the things that you hope will come to a place where you believe that you're beautiful. But
Mm.
at least we're saying, or even now, if you're a believer and it says you know the truths, I guess you could say, rather than saying I can say, well, God says this about me.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, whatever. um I know Isaiah 61:3 and now 4 is my life verse. And if I believe that he's in me, then I know he's working through me, and he is bringing ashes to beauty. And so
Yeah.
beauty on the outside may not mean so much to me, but beauty from the inside does. And to be able to embrace that I am a work in progress, and I'm still moving from ashes to beauty, and he's replacing the mourning with joy,
Yeah.
and those kinds of things. And I actually, that's the thing about the yoga that I do. I can take that verse and I can actually put movement to it, which means I embody that verse.
Mm.
And so it seeps into every cell, bringing life and ashes to beauty in each and every cell.
So we can be transformed by using words and embodying and having movement with, accompanying the words. we can be
Yes.
transformed by that.
Yes. Yes.
What, share, because not everybody is going to know Isaiah 61. Share that verse. Do you know
Oh
it?
goodness.
You have it.
I so I have paraphrased it for so long that
That's
I
okay.
would not be able to, but I call it the ashes to beauty,
Yeah.
um, because it is really replacing all of those, um, shame, blame, the things that were lost and stolen, I say. So the three specifically, verse 3, I love the whole thing, but verse 3 really spoke to grant those who mourn in Zion, to give them a beautiful headdress instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the garment of praise instead of a faint spirit, that they may be called oaks of righteousness, the
Wow.
planting of the Lord, that he may be glorified. Now, this past year, he added four, and that goes with where we're going with Wild Haven, becoming a nonprofit. I haven't
Mhm.
mentioned that, but that they shall build up the ancient ruins. They shall raise up the former devastations. They shall repair the ruined cities, the devastations of many generations. So that's what Wild Haven actually is founded on. That's my life verse.
Mm.
That's where, and so he he says in his word that we with the Holy Spirit in us will actually do more than even Christ when
Mm.
he was here.
Yeah.
And so if he's in me, this means that he has given me the power to do these things as
Mm.
well, and to bring healing, and to bring hope and healing, and to repair
Mm.
uh, former devastations, and to impact generations to come. And I truly believe that. And I'll have to tell you, because I may sound very religious, and but I want to say I call it faith now, not religious, because there was a time, actually it was spiritual abuse, that I stayed in the abuse that I was in for so long.
Okay.
And I actually left the church, said if that's who God is, I don't want him, don't need him.
Mhm.
I had enough trouble, and I felt like he was, that I was told bad things happen to bad people. So therefore, if bad things were happening to me, then I was the bad person. And I spent a lot of years trying to be perfect so that I wouldn't be bad and I would be good enough.
Mm.
And so it really took me leaving, and through the process of, I say, falling apart to fall together better, and stuff.
Mm.
So I'm also very cognizant when I'm working with people. Uh, I do tend to maybe start out more secular, which secular just means taking out the religious piece of it. It's not affiliated with any religion. Um, Yoga is not a religion. A lot of people think that it is, but it's not. And the yoga that we do here in the US tends to be more like, actually based on European gymnastics. So, like
Hmm.
sun salutations that everyone hears about, that's actually from European gymnastics. It was their warm up routine before gymnastics. So, so anyway, it's all those things that I learned through Yoga Faith. But I just, that's where we come back to, the spirit piece of it, and healing that without being religious about it.
Yeah.
And that's what yoga, for me, I'm in that messy middle where there's a lot of Christians who don't believe you can do yoga. And then there's a lot of yogis who don't believe that you can be a Christian and do yoga.
Mhm. Hmm.
Um, and I'm here to, I say, reclaim back breath and
Yeah.
prayer and movement.
We don't have to
Just-
limit
mm-mm,
ourselves. That
exactly.
verse that you shared has meant a lot to me over the years, that beauty from ashes.
Hmm.
And, I think we all have times in our life, experiences that we've had where things have died. Like for me, it was my marriage. My first marriage
Hmm.
died. And I remember somebody saying, as a way of trying to encourage me, beauty from ashes. And I was so frustrated when they said that, because I thought, you just don't understand. You don't understand the depths of devastation and
Hmm.
ruins. And but what I have come to see is it's absolutely true that there is beauty that comes from the ashes, but we
Yeah.
have to have this longevity to see that. It's
Yeah.
not overnight. It's not even in one season or one year. But when you look across a timeline, you can see that if we do that work of healing and surrender to the healing work, then some beautiful things can emerge, even though things have died,
Yes. Yes.
right?
And that is exactly, some things like, again, that tree has to shed its leaves and its
Mm,
seeds and stuff, and it has to die to nourish that ground in order for that seed to be planted and a new birth, a new beginning to
yeah.
emerge. And yeah, and then there's always, like you said, there's just different. We always compare to I guess, the onion peel. There's always another layer of healing
That's
and
right.
stuff. And so, and new beginnings each time and stuff.
You know,
So,
the
but
other thing
oh,
sorry.
no,
No,
I think the long game. That's what people.
that's it.
You said you love hot yoga. Well, what I do isn't necessarily going to be like, oh, that first day, because
Uh-huh.
I call it a practice, because it's practice for the real game, the game of life, right? So
Mhm.
you learn and practice breath, and then it becomes muscle memory. So when you're in that agitated state, or you feel like your chest is about to be crushed, or that panic
Mhm.
attack is coming on, you have practiced it enough that your body kicks in and says, no, this is what we need to do right
So the
now.
practice is on the mat in order
Mhm,
to serve us and be available as tools for us off the mat.
mhm. Exactly. Exactly.
What you talked about the long game, and even in that verse that you shared from Isaiah 61, it made me think about th- even longer term than what we're talking about, generations. And I
Yes.
was talking with somebody yesterday in the last episode about her vision to impact generations through her work in community. And it's such a beautiful thing. And when we think about beauty from beauty from ashes. I'm saying that right. It our healing is not just for us.
No.
It's not just about us. It's about generations to come. It's about this exponential impact of the work that we do today
Hmm.
that will impact,
Yes.
future generations. I mean, it's really profound.
What do children learn from? What do people learn from most? Actions. They can
Mhm.
hear your words, but until you're taking action on those words, and that's where this is. If I can teach a teacher, if I can teach a social worker, if I can teach a hospital care provider, if I can teach a parent, they're going to have, because they're there with them more, and have an impact to show them, to that others can go, wow, thank you, and apply that to their own lives. So
Yeah.
that's the mission, is kind of to, yes, to take those people. Like I said, this is Wild Haven's more about the long game.
Mhm.
There's a lot of, especially, you're getting people maybe out of anti-trafficking, and they go through all of the rehabilitation and recovery and stuff. But then it's like, well, then what? Because those dreams died within them. Once they start to reawaken, where do we go from there? Everybody, I believe, has a dream planted inside of them
Mhm.
that was given to them, and it often encompasses what we've been through. So that we can speak into that and connect with people and stuff. And that's the whole thing, is then I want to prepare people to be able to take it further,
Mhm.
and help others, so that there's more healing going on.
You talked about accessibility is one of your values. And I'm thinking about individuals who are experiencing trauma, the effects of trauma, really,
Yes.
and whether they've come out of trafficking, literally, or they've been a human that's lived on this planet. who have experienced trauma,
Or we
sadly.
just went through Hurricane Helene hitting in the mountains of Western North Carolina.
Mm.
And, if you've already got trauma and then you're piling more trauma on top of,
Yes.
devastating, catastrophic.
Layers and layers of trauma. But
Exactly.
what is it that someone could recognize in themselves that would be a sign? You talked about an arrow or an alert. And what are those things that we should be paying attention to say, maybe I do need some help. Maybe I
Mm.
do need some support, and not just keep pushing through every day, holding on to this mountain of
You mean
baggage.
before you fall into the shower floor and cry out,
Well,
like,
but
do
don't
it.
we do that? Right?
Yeah,
But here's the thing, Trish, is we get up and we just keep going. Like
sure.
some of us push through. We have those moments in the shower and we keep pushing because we think it's all up to us. We think we're alone in our
Yeah.
journey and there's no one else. So we've just got to, you know, keep pressing through. So what is it that we should be recognizing about ourselves to help us say, what if there's a different way?
So I think we also resonate with I see it's high functioning. So I was actually told that I had depression, but I had high functioning depression, is how they labeled it, because I didn't lay in bed. I might have wanted to lay in bed, but no. But what resonates is you work with, so the way that it manifested in me is highly driven, perfectionistic, people pleasing.
Okay, that's a lot. I'm around a lot of those women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
because
here's I just have to add, we're rewarded for that, Trish.
absolutely.
We're
Absolutely.
rewarded for
Yeah.
that behavior.
Yeah. Exactly. So, so that actually would be one of the things is, are
Mm.
you perfectionistic? Are you a people pleaser? Do you find yourself fighting, fleeing, or even what is not just freezing, but there's a term called fawning that people may not be as familiar with, and that's the people pleasing. Are you doing whatever it takes in order to be liked, loved, accepted, those kinds of things? So those are kind of the spirit mental things. And then the physical things are really, do you have chronic pain
Mhm.
that, or chronic autoimmune that has no real, like, where is it coming from? And I can't even tell you. I was told fibromyalgia, I was told IBS, I was told all this. And really, when I was able to get it all comes down to inflammation, and whether inflammation is coming from, nutrition or stress or those things, they're going to build up in the body. And I typically find it between the ages of 40 and 60, because we've ignored it so long. The body is an amazing machine. It just keeps on ticking until
Yeah.
it doesn't. And then that's when all the medical charts start growing, and we're like, what in the world? Or suddenly we're doing all the things, like I said, all the right things, but nothing's working.
So you were
Then,
in tremendous pain.
oh yeah, I was dying from the inside out. Really, I had a six pack. I could lift 140 pounds, like, over my head. I was fit, but I, I I was falling apart. I don't won't even tell. I mean, like literally 19 medical diagnoses and stuff. My gut was an absolute mess. And as you can see, the heart. So if I'd have gone into the doctor and they took my heart
Mhm.
rate or blood pressure, I was great. But no one ever put me on a treadmill and saw my heart rate within a minute go from 60 to 150 as if I was running for my life.
Well, then it makes me think they would have given you a medication,
And they would
right?
have. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that
Absolutely.
wasn't what you needed.
No, no, I needed to deal with the trauma that was stored in my body, trapped in my body, really.
And so where
So
did you start?
I did start with talk therapy, in
Mhm.
complete honesty. And had I known then what I know now, I'd have done yoga probably sooner.
Mhm.
And that is actually why I do what I do. So no one will spend 10, 15 years like I did
Yeah.
trying to to find all the things. And I just, again, this is where I do have to say there's a faith piece to it. And that's where God met me. But that was part of my coming back to him, was someone introduced me to essential oils. And then I went to that retreat, and then I went to,
Mhm.
the physical therapist and stuff like that. So it's one of those things that it took me too long to realize. So this is that shortcut for people. Like, if you
Yeah.
realize there are things going on for you, please reach out to me. Let's talk
Yeah.
about this, and let's see if this will work for you.
What I hear in your story is you were open to following your intuition along that journey. Because even though it might feel like a really roundabout way of getting to where you are, these were the things you were being led, right?
Yes.
Through the essential oils, through the counselor, through the yoga retreat, thinking you're doing it for a friend. And you were,
Yes.
but it was for you too. But, we're following, in a sense, those breadcrumbs that can lead us to where we really need to be. And it's all part of the process.
Hmm.
Right. And now what you've learned is now you're saying, hey, you don't want people to have to go that roundabout route. There's actually some support mechanisms that you offer that people can just engage. And so I
Yes.
think about, oh, well, okay, maybe people are listening to this and they're thinking, oh, I need to find a yoga studio with a yoga therapist. And I'm thinking, oh, actually, you offer online courses.
Yes.
So they could do it from wherever they are in the world.
Exactly. Exactly. And what you hit on is, I'm trying to get people to start listening again to their bodies, to honor their bodies, their minds, their spirits. The way I say they are designed naturally awesome. And that
Mhm.
goes all the way down. And if you look at it as DNA, designed naturally awesome. And so we're looking at what makes you you, and how do you tick so that it works for you. And that's why, with being trauma sensitive as well, I invite people, I guide people. I do not tell them what to do.
Yeah.
I'm not an instructor.
Yeah.
That's why
You're not
I like that
instructing.
it's guiding. So yeah.
I'm thinking about women deal with a lot of shame. Everyone does. Let's be clear. I work with women, so I know women better than I know men. Women are often in a shame cycle that
Hmm.
holds them back from living the fullness of life, whatever that means. And you're an athlete. I'm an athlete. That's just a part of how I live my life, and I love it. It's like that's fun for me to be athletic. But not everybody is at that place of moving their bodies freely and being comfortable in their body, even to go below that line from the head to looking at our bodily experience, because it's painful. It can be painful to look, and we're not always happy with what we see. And so what would you say to women and girls who might be listening and they want to lean into some of this, but they feel afraid of being exposed or tapping into really looking at their body?
Yeah. And I work with, I mean, and that is what the encouragement, that is, I think I said it earlier, but I want to reiterate, is that is why I like that this is accessible to those who don't want to show up live online or in a studio, that they can watch the replays and they're focused on me, not, and they're moving. They're not looking in a mirror. It's not like a
Yeah.
gym where you might have mirrors or anything so and it's really, like you said, more intuitive, and learning to listen to our bodies. But if we're not used to doing that, we start where we are, and that might just be moving. And then different, um, I will give different cues for different, people who some are, kinesthetic, some are, hearers, some are word. And so they receive that also through the growing library in a way that hopefully feeds them and meets them where they are. But it's just starting. I say if you have one lung, you can do this. You can do yoga.
Mm.
It. I love someone asked me this, and it was like a trivia question. What's one mechanism that your body does that is both automatic and something you can control? There's only two
Wow.
body systems or parts that you can do that, where you can control it and it works automatically. Any idea?
Well, I'm thinking of the breath. I'm like, well, it's not the heart because we can't control the beating of our heart. But
Yeah,
what else is
it
it?
is the breath. Well, blinking your eyes.
Ah.
So,
Oh,
and
that's true.
there is a trauma approach, a trauma release approach with the eyes that I do with people as well. But the breath is really the only pure thing that automatically works, and yet we can control it as
Wow.
well. Like we can use it to our own ability. And so I say, if you have a lung, just one lung, we can work with that.
You're breathing.
Exactly. And that's not looking at a body part. That's not looking at, so you just start with breath. You start
We all
there.
have our breath.
Exactly. And bringing it
Mm.
back to something that simple. So,
Hmm. That's
and then
beautiful.
that's where they start rather than the body per
Yeah.
se that you were talking about. I have to look at this or I have to be able to move this. Well, everybody can breathe,
Everybody
and
can
we can
breathe.
learn to do that together.
I love the simplicity of starting there.
Yes.
So, Trish, what are you doing when you're roaring? When you are in your roar, in that confident, power, strong, what are you doing?
So when you say that, I think of lion's breath. So that's a yoga term, I guess you could say. It's called lion's breath, and I call it the roar. So
Mm.
our retreats are called Restore to Roar, and we always end with a roar. And so when I'm roaring, um, it is unlocking, I guess. Okay, it's fighting for and unlocking the bonds on that inner child, on that child, that adult who felt trapped and bound and stuff. It's when I roar, then I'm fighting for that child to break free, to be wild and free.
Mm.
And so it's um, for those who don't have a voice, it's me being a voice for those who don't have a voice. And because now I have a voice and I'm a lioness. And I think this is so cool. Like it just because I am a child of the Lion of Judah.
Yes.
And I was made to roar. And now that I don't know if you've seen that picture of the lion behind the little cub or the lioness. And
Yes.
that's the picture I have is I have
Yeah.
a provider, I have a protector, and I have the power to again restore the spirit, renew the mind, rebuild the body, and reclaim what has been lost and stolen.
Wow.
Come back to that thriving life that I
That is
was built for.
incredible. You were made for it, made to roar. Yeah, there's so many women that I work with and that are in my circle, and we're all pursuing our voice, using our voice in new ways. That because we all have felt stifled, silenced, trapped in certain ways. And so, isn't that a lifetime journey too of finding our voice?
I think of the roar. A lot of people, when you say roar, they think of out of control, but
Hmm.
it's not. It
No,
is, yeah. It's that stance of this is who I am. I know who I am, and I know my worth and my value.
that's it. That's it. And it is a posture because we
Yeah.
can be silent, vocally silent, but still be roaring.
Hmm. Exactly. So.
Yeah, beautiful. So, what's next for Wild Haven? What is your vision for where you want this to go and how you want to help people?
So we are literally just solidified our third board member. And so now we are this week, I'm reaching out to legal counsel to found the nonprofit. And so we are, that's a lot of the behind the scenes that people, don't get to see and stuff. But
Congratulations on that.
yes,
That's a huge step.
that it's huge. And then we are actually constructing our barn dominium, which so during the hurricane, all of my stuff was wiped out and stuff. So we are building uh, the interim retreat center, wellness center, I guess you could call it, on top of the mountain. And we hope to be done by summer. But we're doing a retreat, and our retreats are fundraisers, I guess, in order for us to, what I call, take the retreats to the streets. So,
What do you mean by that?
just going, like I said, meeting people where they are.
Mhm.
A lot of people who are in trauma, especially of domestic violence or sexual violence, abuse, trafficking, foster adoptive families, they can't come to me. So how can I come to them? And then, as I said, how can I go and train others to be
Mhm.
able to do what I do, so that they can take it into their workplaces or into their families, into their communities, create that generational impact.
Yeah.
So that's what we hope to be moving forward, getting mobile and more accessible,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
also being a space where people can, I say, break free from the world to come and to our little piece
Mm.
of heaven, and enjoy it, sitting by the waterfall that we have,
Yeah.
going kayaking, walking the trails, just, finding respite and,
Oh,
restoring to roar,
yeah.
really restoring to roar, a
Sounds
better way.
amazing. It
Yeah.
sounds beautiful. So, how can people find you, and not, yes, how they can become members of what you're doing and, join these classes and be involved in all that you're doing through this healing work and hope work, but also how to support you through, whether it's donating, fundraising, sharing what it is that you're doing. What are ways that people can join and kind of link arms with you?
All right. Well, the first two things, I put out the nutritional nugget every month. So it keeps people abreast of what we're doing, of
Mhm.
how we're growing, and how they can actually help it. Actually, so, uh, we have very specifics, actually, at this point, what are we looking for?
Yeah.
So if they want to sign up for that, they can go to the website at www.wildhavenandco.com. And on that homepage, they can subscribe for the
Okay.
nutritional nugget. But we also have a donation page that also they could go to, and it's the same thing, www.wildhavenandco.com slash or forward slash donate.
Donate.
So
And what are they supporting when they do that?
So they are supporting us founding the nonprofit and
Yeah.
stuff. I think people often forget that they're helping us found the nonprofit. You have to have a place, you have to have a space, I should say, for people to get help. So that would be helping us to sponsor people who can't afford to
Yeah.
come and need it, but also to, like I said, purchase materials and supplies so that we can take it, to them and
Wow.
stuff. Like I said, all my studio pretty much was crushed in the Hurricane Helene, so we're having
Mm.
to build that back from scratch,
Wow.
and stuff. So, so any of that kind of help, and this helps us rebuild our community even here.
Yeah.
So the goal is to work here and then near and far.
Mhm.
Been to Mexico and Peru, working there as well, but we really feel the heart is working in our neck of the woods.
There's so much need.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Talk about impact. Someone could make a donation and change people's lives.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, Trish,
Yeah.
thanks for being here. I'm going to put all of the contact information and ways to connect with you in the show notes so people can access it. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your story. Thank you for what you're doing, the hope and the healing that you're bringing through your work. And I can hear the heart behind what you're doing, and just the impact that you're having is just incredible. So thanks for being here, Trish. Everybody connect with her, and you'll see the website, the Facebook page to connect with you. And until the next time, the lioness in me sees the lioness in you.